Well, hello everyone. Another episode of Into the Pit. Your host Coyote, and I have a very special guest. And I hope you're watching on YouTube because she's gorgeous, and
Oh,
she's an awesome person. And her name is Susan Slaughter. Welcome, Susan.
hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I appreciate you taking time out of your day because I know things can get hectic, especially as many hats as you wear.
Yeah, I know. I just speaking of hectic, just before a little bit of a mishap. We could blame it on Mercury retrograde, but my car is in the shop and I'm dropping a good $1,800 to get it fixed. So yay for me.
Oh my gosh. You give me 1,800, I'll be your Uber driver.
Dude, I had no car for 1 month, and Uber and Lyft drive rides that I took in 1 month just to go to and from a venue that I work at part-time cost me $400. I was like, for $400 I can have like a Mercedes Benz leased out to me. Like, why?
Yeah, no kidding.
Anyways, I don't want to think about that right now,
Oh,
especially tax season. You know, when you work for yourself, all the many hats that I wear, I'm paying Uncle Sam a lot of money in taxes because those don't get taken out in my paychecks. It's a rough February, but I'm getting back on the wagon. It's fine.
no, you'll get there. No problems. Okay, so we're going to talk about paranormal,
Yes.
but let's get to know Susan Slaughter, the person.
All right.
So, where'd you
Oh,
grow
tell you a
up?
little bit.
And yeah, tell me
So
about you.
I currently live in Los Angeles. I've been here for 10 years. And before living here, I grew up in Miami, Florida. So I was living in Miami.
Mm,
I started investigating with a team in Miami called the League of Paranormal Investigators. They've disbanded. It's hard to keep a team together. A lot of people like moved out of Florida. Like even the team leads now live somewhere in the Carolinas, and so they disbanded. And before that happened, I was doing investigations with them and doing a lot of things like around the Native American burial grounds in Florida. We had, like in South Florida where I grew up, we had a lot of reservations out there, Miccosukee tribe reservations. We also had like even things that predate those tribes, like the Tequesta Indians, which were unfortunately no longer a tribe by the time that we were colonized, because they were killed off by the Spaniards.
mm,
But a lot of their burial grounds still exist to this day, and we did a lot of investigations in these sacred sites. Also, a lot of the newer things that were built in the 1800s built on top of ancient Tequesta Indian burial grounds. So that was kind of the start of my investigations in Florida. Were mostly burial grounds and local resident haunts. And after that, I ended up joining, I guess, the television sphere. I started off on Ghost Hunters Academy with
mhm.
Stephen Tango on the very first season. And I was with a great crew and cast of we were called novice investigators, but everybody that they picked were incredibly smart.
Mm.
So I definitely had a run for my money. And I made a lot of lifelong friends through that show too. There are people I still work with today, like Carl Pfeiffer. And him and I both won the first season, and we went to Ghost Hunters International. Eventually, I guess I stuck on Ghost Hunters International. Carl continued to do more of his endeavors because he's an author. And he also he had other endeavors he was working on outside of Ghost Hunters International. So I think he went in and focused in on that, where I stuck around and investigated for 2 seasons over 3 years with GHI. Then after that, I, started, GHI got canceled, funding was getting harder and harder
Mm.
for legitimate investigations, because ever since the rise of other shows that came on that I shall not name, people are expecting, to see ghosts every episode. But in real life, as a paranormal investigator, as you're a paranormal investigator, a lot of the time you go into a location and it's mostly sitting in the dark talking to yourself, so
Exactly.
things like that don't you can't trigger we're learning how to, I guess, stimulate activity now. Like people are bringing in things like electromagnetic pumps to raise the environment's electromagnetic energy, because the idea behind that is to stimulate, like, I guess, activity, like phantasmic activity. But even then, it's really hard. You can't get things to happen on cue. So a lot of the times, and even with ghost hunters, like the home, teams, they would go and it's mostly a debunking case, and it's mostly a history show, that
Yeah.
if we're lucky, we get some form of phenomena, but we're not going to fake it, whereas a lot of other shows out there misinterpret the things that they capture and then feed it to their audience as something paranormal or supernatural, when in reality, they're just misinforming their audience, unfortunately. So a lot of the times I get in the battle of, like, especially with people, viewers, things like that, I try to educate them that paranormal phenomena is not this like crazy, like, like you see now on YouTube, all like kitchens with poltergeist activity, like opening and slamming doors and things like that. I'd be like, honestly, that never happens unless an earthquake is going on. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Like that, to me, it's just bizarre to see the misinformation that people have on the paranormal. So, but people want to be entertained, and I think now that what we have on television is more of like entertainment in the storyline of paranormal phenomena. Although I am very happy to see that Ghost Hunters did come back.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they have Grant now leading the team, which he's great. And two friends of mine, dear friends of mine that are colleagues that I've investigated with, that I stand behind and back 100% and tell you with 100% confidence that they're not fakers, that they are professionals, and they would never be involved with a show that would do something like that. So
That's
that's
good.
Brandon Alvis. I've investigated with him a bunch, and he's a great investigator. So I'm like super stoked that they brought back a science-based show again. I'm just waiting for them to bring GHI back so we could go
Right.
abroad and do the same thing. But right now I'm doing paranormal caught on camera, and and it's kind of a very easy gig for me because I just have to talk about types of phenomena and theory and religion and tactics and things like that, which I find really interesting. And it broadened my range, because if you've ever watched Paranormal Caught on Camera, it's
Yes.
also cryptids and aliens and UFOs. So now I have to educate myself on those subjects too. So it's broadened my horizon from just being a ghost and like a ghost person, a paranormal investigator, to somebody that now has knowledge and opinions on things like, ghosts I mean, I already said ghosts, but like aliens and UFOs and government disclosure and cryptids. Like, it's given me the opportunity to educate myself more in other realms, which it makes you question everything on this planet.
Well, it really does. And are you familiar with Steve Shippey?
I can't say I am.
He had a program on Amazon called Haunted Saginaw, and now
Oh,
Travel Channel is just started a show with him on it called Hauntings in the Heartland,
love
and
it.
it comes on Friday nights. I actually got to talk to him earlier,
Hmm.
and we talked about how things have kind of gotten away from taboo, especially because of shows like Ghost Hunters that are bringing it out, and people get to not only say, "Hey, did you catch that on the show last night? This is what happened to me." It's making it easier for people to get out there and talk. And me and him agree on one thing: the activity's always been there. It's
Hmm.
just people haven't always been comfortable about talking about it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna put my life out here real quick, but there was a point in my life where the I thought I had gone crazy and I was hearing voices, and I ended up going into a hospital to get treatment. And they want to pump you full of every drug in the world. And then as I got more deep into doing the paranormal and getting actually on a team for the first time, and and experiencing it. I got to meet some mediums, which I honestly didn't believe in before, but I could tell you some stories that I won't get into now. But they were saying you have a portal in your house and things are coming through. So nothing's staying, but they're passing through.
Mm-hmm.
We lived literally walking distance to the cemetery, not even a block away. And I would get up in the morning and my lazy boy would be turned upside down. I inherited a grandfather clock from my grandfather. And when I'd wake up in the morning, it would be laying over on its side. Now, you know how
Whoa,
big.
that's a huge piece of, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, you would hear it if it
Yeah,
crashed,
that would make all sorts of noise.
especially when it's like 5 feet from my bedroom door. And I don't sleep that soundly. So, you know, and the medium came in and said, yes, you have a portal here and things are passing through. And she says, these things that you're hearing, it's not a mental problem. You're actually hearing these things.
Mm-hmm. So
Blew
you
my
might be
mind.
clairaudient. You have like a psychic ability that you have to like train yourself to utilize appropriately. Um, clairaudience you is like a external hearing of voices, or sometimes you'll get thing like a whisper right in your ear. Like it won't
Mm-hmm.
be like you're hearing something down the hall, but it'd be like so close to you. And that's an ability. And I believe that so many people have these abilities. I believe every person has the ability to be a psychic. And there are so many different types of abilities that it's like, it's very colorful, you know, just like there are so many different types of dog breeds, you know, like there are
Right, right.
different types of abilities psychically. And what it sounds like is you have the ability of clairaudience, like you can hear things. And if you already have that ability, and like let's say you start to train yourself on like how to listen even deeper, maybe just like that psychic who told you you had portals in your home, like that's not something that she just woke up with and said, hey, I can really feel people out, you know, like that was something she had to train herself to focus her energy on, to start seeing. I mean, her type of ability too, like she might have a different type of ability where she you know, is a medium, could speak to people that have passed, or she
Mm-hmm.
can see into the future, or maybe she has things that come into her dreams. But everybody has, if you have one ability, it's totally possible that you can actually train yourself to have multiple other types of abilities. um so I think when the first thing you said when I was hearing stuff was like, oh, like you have an ability, or clear, like a clairaudience, you know,
Well,
audience.
when I was growing up, as a child, it would sound like somebody was calling my name, or you know, there. I couldn't quite make out what they were saying, and even at my young age, I kept thinking I was just hearing. My brain was playing tricks on me. Let's put it that
Right.
way. And so I thought, wow, this is cool. I wish it happened again. And then later on, I'd hear, you know, hey, Kyle, or, you know,
Hmm.
whatever. And, you know, I never attributed to it because it did not grow up talking about having these abilities. And, you know, you see a psychic medium, they're all, you know, smoke and mirrors, and there's tricks to everything. And then when I finally got to meet this particular lady, she made me a believer. She told me things that there's absolutely positively no way she could have known. And
Yeah,
she did
you
join
can't
our
Google
team.
search that info.
Yeah, the stuff that okay, I'll give you an example. We went in to go do a reading. I wasn't really supposed to be getting the reading. It was supposed to be my wife and one of my daughters. And all of a sudden, she just looks up and she says, did you have someone just pass away? And the only letter I'm getting is a B. And it blew my mind because just that morning, my grandfather had passed away, and his name was Byron.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, okay, that's not a coincidence. Nobody in that house knew that it happened, only my wife and my daughter. And we all
Yeah.
came in together.
And they
And
didn't say anything about
no,
Byron
no,
passing.
Nobody had mentioned it. I didn't even wanted to ask because I was like, I want my grandfather to pass on. So, I'm not going to ask about him.
Yeah.
And then she started going, how come I keep hearing the water boy? And we all busted out laughing because the running joke between us is we start quoting stuff from the water boy,
Yeah, with
H2O.
Adam Sandler.
Yeah, water sucks. It really, really sucks. We're doing that all the time. And she pulled that out of the air. How the hell did she do that? She just met us.
Yeah.
No, even the lady that was hosting the thing didn't even know that. So I'm going to ramble on about this, but I've learned to appreciate that. And she said I do have abilities, and that I need to work on it. My problem
Yeah.
was how do I do this? How do I get started? So I don't know.
Meditation practices help a lot.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I think you should definitely look into that. And meditation's like saved and changed my life completely. It also is very beneficial for health ailments and stuff. So once I started, I could be better, I'll be honest, but I started doing transcendental meditation techniques, and I actually took courses on that. I went and I learned about it with a group of people. I went, and it was a class situation that you take 4 courses, and every 6 months you go in for what's called a checking with the person that taught you. And it has nothing to do with religious beliefs. It's all about mind controlling. It's being in control of your own mind and body. And it teaches you how to inwardly concentrate. And then you start getting thoughts and messages through, I call them colors and vibrations. That is very, very biological and terrestrial. People are like, oh, isn't that like touching? No, like your body has the ability to communicate with you if you listen inwardly. And a lot of and meditation has been taken by every single religion and been repackaged, like prayer. When you go to church and people sit there praying and they're there and you see them, they get honed in, especially if people like use the rosary, things like that. The rosary and prayer becomes like what is your mantra, and it helps you go inward to manifest your reality. And the fact is like religion takes, the thing is, I think religion takes away your power because it's making you subservient to something else that you're hoping, like God or Allah or this person controls my life. But in reality, you can harness that God energy through meditation and work as that universally for everyone, for your internal and external life. And it works with psychic ability. It works with regeneration in your body, with health. There were people that I've never met anyone personally, but I've read many accounts of people that use meditation to heal themselves of cancer, to heal themselves of PTSD, to heal themselves of like addictions. And it did with me, like definitely with PTSD and addiction, not that I didn't realize I had an addiction, or it was more like it wasn't addiction, it was like a bad habit. I work in a nightlife environment a lot. I work at a music venue when I'm not, doing paranormal stuff or research. And it wasn't a thing for me to take like 3 to 5 shots in the course of a night. And my metabolism started, getting all wonky. And there'd be times where I'm like doing 3 to 5 shots and I'm not even drunk. Like my body got so used to taking it, and I realized it was affecting my health, and all this stuff. And when I started meditating, I started rejecting it. My body rejected it. My taste buds rejected it. All of a sudden it was like, my body was like, hey, you need to just stop taking mindless shots at work. You know what I mean? And now I don't even really drink. Like I drink wine with fancy dinner now, but I can't even stomach whiskey anymore. And I used to be a proud whiskey girl, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, I know
And I,
exactly what you mean.
and I was like, like I love making old fashions. I love making Sazeracs. I love me some bougie bourbon. You know what I mean? I was
Mhm.
all about that type of life. And, no, I wouldn't drink to get drunk, but now I realize I'm just drinking to drink. It's not even like a social thing. It just became like this weird habit. And since I started meditating, it had literally peeled away at the layers of my bad habits, and it's changed my lifestyle forever. And I was having all sorts of issues with like insomnia, depression, and meditation sucked me out of that. It's not overnight, obviously, but I've been doing it for 2 years now, and I could literally say I'm a whole different person with a whole new perspective since I've started meditating. And I've discovered new psychic abilities that I would never knew I could harness. So that's why I think when you start meditating, you will start noticing if you had we were talking mildly about like how you have some health issues. Those are things that your body starts kind of like, you'll start craving things that heal your body. Your diet will change and it will be completely on your own. It's like something in your mind clicks. You'll realize through meditation that all this external stuff that's been going on in your world that you've been allowing and absorbing into your life, it goes away. And that's the power of meditation, is that you go inwards in your own body and you see your true power from the inside. And when that power harnesses, it starts working on outwardly outside in your environment. It is like magic. I don't know how to explain it. And I don't know why it took me so long to discover it, especially being a spiritual person.
Mhm.
And also, I've been having a lot more personal paranormal encounters since I've opened that Pandora's box of meditation. So it's, if you want to experience more phenomena, like, definitely meditate, and you'll find that you'll go into locations and you'll start feeling them all around you because your energy is wide open, and it's a nice strong protective energy, that you've worked on yourself. Like
Mhm.
nobody else has a hand on that energy except for you through meditation. And it's an amazing thing that just like transforms a person's life.
Oh yeah,
um,
I've had that stressed to me time and time again. Do that meditation and the whole chanting and everything. I thought,
yes,
well, what's that got to do with it? But if you think about it, because deep down, our atoms, they move on a frequency,
yes, vibrational.
and it makes up everything in your body. And so that chanting causes a vibration, and it stimulates them to go the right direction.
Hmm.
Just like when you boil water,
Hmm.
everything, all the atoms start moving around so quickly, and that's why you get the water boiling. And
Hmm.
then you slow it down, it turns to ice.
Yep.
And so, I'm a big believer in that. And also, as I don't believe in religion, because I believe that every religion that's on this planet is man-made. Now, I'll probably get some flack for that, but man has come up with this rule by way he has interpreted the Bible,
Hmm.
and says you have to do this, you have to do that. But yet I can go back and read the Bible and says, well, it says this. It did say I have to do this in order to get here. So do I have someone that I would call my God? I call Odin my God. And I I don't follow like this strict code of I've got to be just like this to be in this religion.
Hmm.
No, I've learned that spirituality is actually where it's at. People don't understand that.
Yeah.
You have to have a spiritual what's the word I'm looking for? It's a relationship
Yeah.
with what's surrounding you. It's a spiritual relationship.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
I've seen religion spawn very positive, like, good people. I've seen, like, I guess what I want to say is, I've met some really amazing Christians that live in this very accepting and loving life, like where they are philanthropists, where they will help their neighbor, they'll help their friends, they'll help a stranger in a Christian way, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I've also seen Christians take that whole format and flip it on its head and reject people, reject their neighbors, reject the strangers, just because they're not part of that group, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I've seen, and that goes in every sense of the self. I also know like Muslim people that are so accepting of me and my beliefs and all this stuff, and it's not like we see on the, like I know women that wear and cover themselves out of, not because they feel like they have to, because they respect their bodies and they respect their religion and what they are in their religion. You know, they believe that femininity and their womanhood, you know, is like a superpower, you know, and that power gets harnessed for themselves in their own way, and they cover that to keep that energy to themselves, you know, so to keep that to them. And not because a man told them to, or not because the Quran told them to. It's just their belief system, and they're wonderful. Like one of my doctors, she's my gynecologist, and you know, she's a Muslim woman,
Mm-hmm.
and she's so empowered in her job, and she helps other women, and she doesn't judge women for being sexually active or having, you know, like other issues, which she talked to me about. Because I've asked her that. I was like, is it hard for you to see Western women as a Muslim woman all the time, you know, girls having sex before getting married, you know, girls coming in with all sorts of shit, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
She's like, absolutely not. Like, I'm here to protect all of the women. They're all part of my tribe. Like, that's why I chose to be a gynecologist, because the women's body is like a life-bearing temple, and we need to protect that. So that was her mind, you know. She's not like this. So, but then you have other people in the same religious sect, and they're killing off their own kind in their countries in droves, and starting patriarchs to submit people under their regimes, you know, like the Taliban and things like that. So
Exactly.
there's like good and bad in everything. I think at the end of the day, we can't let like old text dictate how we should live, because in a modern society, as we start to grow and develop and learn about the sciences around us, about what really human, like as we evolve, being human also evolves. Like the whole context of being human evolves. We have a mental capacity today that 1,000 years ago human beings also didn't have, you know what I mean? So I don't feel like those old texts need to dictate the future of humankind or mankind, you know? Like we need to be able to revise what was once a good idea to fit where we are now in our evolution,
Right.
you know?
Well, when you think about how religion has, uh, it's causing wars, and because people are not really studying what the religion really is.
Yeah.
I don't believe that my God's going to come to me and say, you know what, those people are terrible, go kill them. No, I believe you believe what you want to believe. I believe what I want to believe. And the only thing I could say would be a sin is to go against what your true beliefs are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Not
saying?
to like impose your beliefs on others.
Well, yeah, I saw a
And
meme
yeah.
today. This meme said it showed like Jesus grabbing hold of this guy holding a Bible, and he says, "I sent you here to send a message, not to argue."
Yeah.
So, and who's to say who's right anyway? Everybody interprets it a different way, and that's the way the Bible is meant to be. It's meant to
Yeah.
be interpreted a different way.
It keeps, these texts keep getting misinterpreted all the time, you know what I mean? Like it's a real bummer to see that all of these texts are based off of a central view of like love and respect your, like it's more like respect yourself, respect others, respect your body, what, you know, like respect the land. It's kind of like these it's more like a like, I guess the best way to describe it, I picked up this book. We have these little free libraries around, and I picked up this book, and it's called like a woman's role in love and marriage, but it was written in like the 60s. And I was like really curious. I was like, oh, let me read this. And of course, it's very like what does a woman do with her time? Because in that time, women didn't work. You know, women, it was all like how to empower yourself as a woman to be a smart and caring wife at home. And then it's like teaching them how to like sew and how to clean properly and what chemicals not to use because it's bad for your skin, or it's bad for this, or it's bad for that. And I'm sure that was a very modern book to be like, hey, if you don't work, you can go to school, learn a different language, learn to make cocktails, learn to do something, you know. It was kind of like helping the average housewife in the 60s to develop a sense of self, because don't get lost in your husband's identity and all this stuff like that. You know, to be an independent woman, how to be an independent woman in the 60s at home, you know. And then it's also written like by another Christian woman, but you know, talks a lot about God and things like that too. And it's like that manual today as a, like, you know, reading it in 2020 is absurd to me. It's like women are way more capable than that. And a lot of the times, to be honest, the majority of my female friends make more money than their male counterparts now. Like it's nuts to see there's a huge difference. Like this manual doesn't even fit anymore. Exactly. You know, and I feel like it's the same thing with anything else that's been written, you know, like the Torah, the Bible, the Quran, it doesn't fit anymore, you know?
Well, you know, when it comes to men and women, okay, I can hear myself talking.
Okay.
But when it comes to men and women, and this is my spiritual belief, and it does come from the story of how, you know, man and woman was created. And woman was supposed to be there for a helpmate. She wasn't being brought here to be a slave. And part of the spiritual thing is you attach to each other spiritually. And each one of you you deserve to be your own person. And then if you choose that you want to join with someone, as long as you don't lose who you are, like you said, you don't want to lose your identity. And there's nothing wrong with a man and a woman in a workplace making the same money. There's, you know, having the same opportunities. I am all for that. But if a woman decides she wants to stay home and that's what she wants to do, well, then do it to the best of your ability. Just like if you're in the workforce, do it to the best of your ability. Same time, the man has the same obligation there. You do the best that you can at work, and then you come home and you do the best you can.
Yeah.
You know, I like I told you before the show, I raised my two boys basically by myself, and it would have been great to have that partner there, but I understood the role of if I was a woman and all I could do was stay home and take care of them. That's too hard by yourself.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, and it's tough because even in the workforce today, like I feel like fathers don't get the connection with their children because all of that responsibility ends up with mothers. And then that's why I feel like there is a lost dynamic there, because I feel like there should be an even keel, like whereas, you know, women could go back to work and dads could be stay at home, you know.
There's nothing wrong with that either.
And vice versa. And I think we need to live in a society that like raises that, you know, but right now the thing is that you have people that are still alive with this old school mentality, still running governments and games. As those people start, you know, passing on, then you start getting new people. So I mean, everything's going to change. I definitely believe that. Like in politics today, I know this is supposed to be a ghost podcast, and here we are talking about like religion and like, you know, like the matriarch and patriarchal societies and things like that. But
no, I'm actually enjoying it.
Yeah, it's nice. Like I was telling you earlier, I was like, yeah, we could just talk about like Texas and barbecues all day. And now we're talking about like politics and religion. Those are like taboo subjects, but I guess so are ghosts as well sometimes, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, I had a bad habit that I've just learned to break, that I would get in on these political discussions on Facebook and whatnot. And you know what? Everybody's got their own way of thinking. If you want to be on the left, you be on the left. You want to be on the right, you be on the right. I can tell you what my opinion is. You take it or leave it. You tell me what your opinion is. I take it or leave it.
Yeah.
There's no reason why we should be at war at each other the way it seems to be now. It's, I think that's the government's tactics, is to pit everybody against each other.
Yeah.
So, and take, your mind and thoughts away from all the other garbage that's going on. And, excuse me, everybody, I believe, is appointed a leader for a reason. There's some sort of idea or whatever that's been brought to them that is supposed to be implemented. I think
Yeah.
all this stuff happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Just like when I got my divorce and where I moved and I got to meet my wife that I have now, that plan was set in place. It was my destiny to be there.
Yeah.
But I also had the choice of free will. If I didn't want to listen to the universe, go do my own thing, and it was going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And now I've moved away from the Houston area, and I live up here by Austin. And I do miss my other kids, but this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
So everything happens for a reason.
You have a cat too.
Yes.
Is it a white cat?
Yes, it is a white cat.
Oh my gosh, because I got to get something really quick for you. He's been meowing because I put him away.
Go for it. Yes, she's decided to help interview. Yeah, thank you for coming to see Daddy.
Guy. This guy has been meowing nonstop for me to let him out, and it's equal yet opposite.
Oh, I had a black kitty. His name was
You're out
Spaz.
now. I let you out. Stop meowing.
Yeah, if I don't let them in, they'll just sit there and howl at the door. So I'd rather.
That's what he was doing, and I was like, he's not going to stop unless I let him out. And then I saw your little cat head, and I was like, all right, if your cat's out roaming around, I should let my cat roam around.
Well, I'm going to tell you that story real quick. But when we met with the medium, she told us that there's something about a white cat. You're going to end up with a white cat. And sure enough, took my wife to go get her nails done. I don't know how many months ago it was, but I'm like, I'm going next door to the pet store because I don't want to sit there and watch y'all doing the whole nails thing, right? So I go in there, and here's this white cat, exactly the way my wife had wanted it. She'd been talking about that forever. It's got one blue eye, one green eye.
Oh.
And she's as sweet can be. And so we adopted her. And of course, Michelle, this is her baby. That's her mama. And we named her Caradwin. So if
you named her Caribou?
Caradwin.
Caradwin.
Yes.
What is Caradwin?
She's a Celtic goddess.
Okay.
So I just thought that kind of fit because my wife's she's a witch and an empath, and that's kind of her thing. So
wow, that sounds a lot like me.
Yeah, right.
Empathic witch. I totally go down that route.
I just can't get away from y'all.
Like I told you earlier, I know other people didn't hear about it, but I think like you choose your life path, you know what I mean? You come in this world, and with all the things that you have experienced, the deaths in your family, the heartbreaks that you've sustained, those are all things that I think you can soul contractually became a part of because you wanted to learn the bigger lessons in this experience in life. You know what I mean? And that way you graduate sooner, or you graduate with flying colors when you decide to leave this planet or leave this three-dimensional world you were born in. So I also think that maybe because you chose a higher route, even though there was more pain involved in that route, you meet more spiritually inclined people, and then you start receiving gifts like clairaudience, things like that start coming into you. Those are like, I think, universal gifts that were given to you because you have experienced all these things in your life, because you passed all these tests, because you didn't allow these things to break you or make you a negative being, because you could have let all of that, but instead you allowed it to lead you down a more spiritual path, a path in which case you know, like, now look for energies, you now understand energies, you meet people that work with energies, and your life has this whole spiritual theme to it now because this was the path you were supposed to be on. You know, that's what I think, you know, at least the vibe that I get from you.
Oh, well, I believe that our goal in this life is, it's more than just having family. It's more than just making money and just being here. I think we're meant here to strive for enlightenment,
Yes.
which to me was kind of explained as, you start at this level, and once you get that spiritual awakening or your enlightenment, and you realize there's something else in this life that I'm supposed to be doing or I'm supposed to be believing in, then you reach that next height and you
Yeah.
keep going. And then once you've left this world, this body, then your spirit goes on to continually be enlightened and continually be able to climb up that ladder. Now, I don't know what your feelings are on it, but that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I I also feel like when because you've already been talking about, you're going to get into meditation. It might not be right now, might not be tomorrow, might not be this year, but you're going to see that you'll start noticing all those things that have happened to you. They all start kind of, the synchronicities in your life and the paths that you've taken to get where you are today all start making sense. And then you start using all those tools to open new paths for you. It's like you become your own manifesting alchemist through internal energies that you harness through meditation. It's amazing. And I think like you're on the like cusp of discovering that too. And you know, I'll tell you right now, doctors and all those people, they will want to take your healing powers away from you and prescribe you a pill for something, you know. And there is a whole other thing behind that. I feel like there are companies I just don't like support anymore, like at all, because I believe that they rather, they don't cure anything. All they do is they suppress things.
It's a
They
mask.
suppress, yeah. It's these suppressive medications that end up ruining other parts of your body, you know, giving you other awful side effects. So they're never ever really healing you, and they're not giving you like, so I'm very big on like alternative medicine. I love things like Ayurveda. I love things like more holistic type medicines and meditation. And this is where I haven't really gotten big into yoga, but I had a back injury when I was younger. And I know I'm starting to notice through meditation and becoming more aware of my body that that back injury has not healed. And it's making it awful for me to sleep at night. I'm tossing and turning. I'm waking, my knees are starting to like bend like and crack because I could feel the alignment of my body is off. And I'm like, I need to just do more like physical awareness meditation. That's where yoga comes in. And I'm not going to preach about yoga because I haven't really been doing it, but it's something that I look forward into doing soon, because I believe with yoga and meditation, you can like regenerate your body
Oh
essentially,
yeah.
and diet as well, you know, like be careful with genetically modified foods. Be careful if, then I'm not little miss vegan or vegetarian, like I definitely eat meat, but be careful of what sources of meat you're eating, you know, like the animals are being fed genetically modified stuff, you know, like I'm never buying stuff from Kroger, you know, I'm never buying stuff from like Foster Farms. Like if you've ever seen like what those farms look like, it's awful. Like I'm big on like a hunter gatherer mentality where I'm like, and I grew up in Florida, so a lot of my friends hunt, you know what I mean? But it wasn't until I moved to California, where I didn't have friends that went hunting and fishing every day, you know, that I realized all of the food that I was eating was coming plastic wrapped in a grocery store. I grew up in Florida, and this is probably the same with Texas. This is another thing we were talking about, like meat in Texas is also different. My friends would go like bow hunting and make venison sausages. And this is an animal that lived naturally in the wild that we captured and killed and used every part of that animal. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
We used the hide. We tanned the hide. We made jerkies. We ate everything, you know, like on that animal. We made sausages with like tongues and everything, you know? And it was delicious. And then my thing was fishing, and I used to go free diving. I used to capture lobsters, sea urchin, things like that. I'd go fish and throwing lines out just for fun and come back home with like grouper or snapper. And that was how I ate my protein in Florida. And I felt so healthy and so lean and so this. And I came out here and I'm like, why don't I feel like that anymore? And it's because I'm eating all of this farmed shit, you know, farmed genetically modified foods. And of course, like, also eating too much meat is bad, no matter how wild or natural your meat is. But I definitely I've realized that I started eating a lot less meat since I've been living in California, mostly because I don't have friends that hunt or fish anymore out here. So I'm not living off the land as much as I used to in Florida. So that was kind of taken away from me. But I know that in a lot of people, and there's a lot of PETA activists out there and things like that, you know. And to be honest, I think the big issue and why we have you know, organizations like PETA is because animal consumptions have become a problem when we have overpopulation of the mankind. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, kitty tail.
Yeah, that's
But it's
Kara.
like, I look at nature around me and everything eats everything. You know what I
It's true.
mean?
That's true.
And we are part of this planet. We are terrestrial beings. And so I find it to be like unnatural for us to like completely omit certain things. And another thing is like vegans or vegetarians out there, like, I love it. Like you're being an activist and a voice for animals, which we need, because people are just raising animals for consumption in a mindless manner. But then it's like a double-edged sword, because it's like then people won't eat certain things, and then people are like, oh well, if you're vegan I'll be fine. But then we also wouldn't have, let's say we replace all those cow pastures with corn or grains or some type of fruit and vegetable. We wouldn't have the capacity to grow that much food if everybody was a vegan. Then we'd have to lean on genetically modified things. Like there's no such thing as real soy anymore. All the soy on this planet is essentially genetically modified now. And you think about that, and people that eat too much soy products, and that's another thing, vegetarians, be careful with you're eating too much soy. It's all GMO, you know what I mean? So it's like this dark food thing that I'm dealing with every day, that I'm just like, man, can we just teach people how, like, if you don't eat meat if you can't catch it yourself, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like that's what I'm going to tell people. That's
So
the big thing. If you don't catch meat yourself, if you're not hunting out there on your own terms, then you shouldn't be eating it.
see, we need to take you to North Texas so you can hook up with Ted Nugent. He'll
Oh,
take
I know. I mean, there's a lot of things about Ted Nugent that I don't agree with, but I mean, if he's catching his own meat, good for him. I'll go to his barbecue.
right.
Yeah.
So you're also a model.
I have done some modeling stuff, yes, but mostly period pieces. You know, I worked on well, not so much. The last shoot I did was with a photographer, Dan Santoni, and we did like a character shoot. So I did one as I guess, a fortune teller, and then I did this kind of like futuristic, like Blade Runner style shoot where I wore like all this leather. Um, it was pleather. It was pleather.
No animals were harmed in the making of this outfit.
Except for the in the back he had this giant like ram skull that was real. And that was his prop. But I'm like, did you kill that ram on your own, Dan Santoni? Otherwise but anyways, but yeah, I've done some modeling stuff. I think it comes hand in hand. Like initially I did stuff in theater. I went to school for acting and drama and costume design. So I find through modeling I get to work with costumes and like character plays and things like that. So every photo shoot that I've done, if it's not like a headshot, it's all character driven. I wear a lot of wigs. So the last one that I did a Victorian, well, Haunted by History, which is Craig Owen's book. He's also a photographer and a paranormal investigator and a historian. And he had this book that he came out where he would go to historical locations and bring in models, not just hot girls or whatever, but models that looked of the era, and dressed them up in 100% original clothing pieces and everything. And then try to, I guess, stimulate the activity in the rooms through characters that he would bring into the environment to make it seem of the era when it was like in its thriving state. So I did one at the Victorian Rose in Ventura.
Oh, wow.
And it used to have like a room where it used to be an old cathedral, you know, so it was like a church, so to speak, and they turned it into an Airbnb. It's absolutely beautiful. So we went back to like the 1800s when it was built, and I wore original like 1800s negligee and took photos in that. So everything I've done modeling wise has all been character driven because yeah, I don't know, it's a lot of fun to do that, and I like working with other photographers and like brainstorming on like scenarios and ideas.
You ever thought about doing body painting?
I I mean, no, it's not my
No.
thing.
I was fixing to say I have a friend of mine that does that. So if you need the hookup,
I'll do face painting. Like I've thought a lot about doing like more like practical effects stuff. I have a friend who he does all the werewolf makeup on Teen Wolf for MTV and stuff like that. I mean, he works in feature films and stuff like that. And he's like, let me turn you into a creature. So I'm down to do that, like wear like the appliques and the suits and turn me into like a, you know, werewolf or some really cool like practical effects like monster. Like I love that idea. But the body paint is more of like a gawking type thing. It's like, let me see through that body paint, you know.
yeah,
I'm a
I
little
got
bit
you.
more conservative than that, you know.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, he used to be on that show on Sci-Fi
Skin
where
Wars.
Skin Wars. That's it. He
Yeah.
was on Skin Wars. That was pretty awesome. It's kind of
That looks
cool.
cool. I mean, so we have Fantasy Fest in Key West in Florida every October.
Hmm.
And that's the big thing. Like everybody goes out there and does the body paint and just literally walks around naked. And I tell you, some of the most beautiful bodies and some of the roundest bodies have some of the most amazing body paint, you know. And I love that, but it's like I'm too shy for that. I think I'm like a little nervous. I'm not self-conscious of my body at all, but I'm just definitely too shy, you know. And I've also been bullied online for stuff. Like I've done like some like topless type photographs and things like that, and it's all very artistic and stuff, but then people will like slut shame you to death about it. You know, they'd be like, oh my God, like here she is. Like I even did a movie that came out, and I have like a very slight topless scene, and it's in a very non-sexual way. And people just went ape shit over that. And it was just like, it's like, you haven't seen boobs before. This is the internet age. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
goddamn. But yeah, no, I've still like, I think because of all the I don't want any like negative attention or like creepers anymore. Like I'm so over it. They're like energy vampires, like the people that troll you on the internet, and they're all like, ugh, like they'll literally just take pictures and cut out every part of that picture to just show the 1/3 of a boob that I showed. You know what I mean? It's just like, ugh. Come on now, folks. It's like, I also want people to like consider me to be like a legitimate paranormal researcher. And sometimes people get blindsided by the fact that I do like modeling and acting, and they think you can't be both, you know? But my argument with that is, anybody that practices like that is a paranormal investigator, that is a ghost hunter that goes out, they all have day jobs.
Oh
Every
yeah.
single one of them. So because you're an insurance person, or because you work at Walmart makes you less of a spiritual person or investigator. Like that's because I'm an actor makes me less of a genuine person. Like that's not cool, you know? So I like to like break that stigma a little bit. So it's like weird having to walk this fine line as a person that models and acts, that lives in Los Angeles, that continues to do projects and film, you know, and people like don't want to take me seriously because I don't know, because I do this type of work, that I can't be a spiritual and professional investigator, you know?
It's like
Like,
they want you to be this one person and you can't
yeah,
expand, and that's not how people should be. You should
yeah,
be, you know, one day I'm here on the computer and I'm doing everything for the network.
yeah,
You know, my day off I might be hanging out at the comic book store, or you know,
yeah,
going to a hockey game. So I love the paranormal, but I'm not going to just spend 24 hours a day doing nothing but that. That's not
yeah.
right. You're going to get
Everybody's
burned out.
multifaceted and everyone has different interests. Like just looking at you, like you have paranormal people behind you, but then you also have actors. Like you love cinema, obviously. I love
Yeah.
cinema too. Does that make us less credible as paranormal investigators? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? So it's just things like that, that it's like you have to kind of tug at the consciousness of people and be like, how is it that you can be a legitimate paranormal investigator, and have also your own private life? Like being a paranormal investigator does not make a lot of money unless you have a television series or you are an author in it.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, like the series, when that series is done or you're in between seasons, I remember this on Ghost Hunters International, you're not getting a paycheck for like 4 to 6 months. So
Yeah.
what do you do in that time in between?
You
So
got to have
most
something.
people, what they do is they go to conventions and then they charge like high appearance fees, or they sell like in between things. Like actually when you go and you're buying like an 8x10, like the ones that you have behind you, you are sustaining an artist on their down period. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
they're like, they get paid for that one movie, but you know, they have bills just like everybody else does. They have a mortgage, they have rent, they have insurances they need to pay. And that goes away really quick, especially if you're not working within 6 months to a year for your next project. So essentially going to cons is the only way you could support artists on their downtime, you know?
Yeah.
And even then, when they're going to conventions, you're paying like $30 for like a photo and a signature or whatever. That's only enough probably to sustain them for a month or two, but then they have to continue doing either more conventions, or if you're burnt out on that, what do? You have your own jobs. Like I work with music, I work at a music venue, you know, that's what I do. Or I work in feature films, you know, and again, the feature films come in between, like, so, you know,
Yeah.
like, so it's just things like that. Like people don't really put things into perspective on other people's lives and like what it is to be a human being sustaining yourself financially. You know, being a ghost hunter or a paranormal investigator is not the most lucrative job, you know,
Yeah.
but
Well, people see you on television, they automatically think, oh, these people are making all kinds of money. You know, you're rich. Believe me, it's not going to make you rich
I
unless.
had an apartment that I split rent with a roommate. So like that's where if I was like, you know, and she, you know, and I have very different lifestyles, and you know, yeah, I live in LA, but even people like I see this every day working at a music venue, like people that you know in bands, like people that you see on MTV, you know,
Mm-hmm.
are still driving around in like a 2005 Yaris. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
it's not like just because they have music videos and they're in a band, they're making buku amounts of money. It's just doesn't work like that. Especially that's what happens when you work in media today, especially with the age of the internet. Everything's accessible for free. You know, like we need to get away from that whole like, you know, Led Zeppelin made it seem like back in the day, like they had their own jets and they had this and they had that. But it's like if Led Zeppelin came around today, they would be living in normal ass houses, probably close to their industry, which is like LA or New York, you know, and like cursing Apple Music for not giving them their their cuts, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's a tough world out there, especially with media now. Like so That being said, like, I investigate for free, and I put a lot of my own money up to
We do too.
investigate. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And that's not a cheap hobby. You know what I mean? So, like, I am going to be going to Japan. And one of the biggest reasons I'm going to Japan in April is because I want to go to the Aokigahara forest, which is like the big known suicide forest in Japan. And that is like a kind of, you know, that costs a lot of money. I had to pay for that out of pocket. Nobody's financing that trip for me, you know, but this is my passion and this is what I love to do, you know, and then, you know, I have to work multiple jobs to be able to follow my spiritual path. And every now and then I get lucky enough for a television series or someone, you know, like saying, hey, we want your expertise on our show, or hey, we want you to investigate with this team. I don't get paid until I get those appearances, you know, and that's just how that cookie crumbles in the paranormal field if you're doing it on media. So, but yeah, I definitely spend a lot of my own money doing this stuff. And I just I just did an investigation with some witches, and I had to bring a whole slew of equipment that I can't afford. So I had to rent it. I rented it on my own dime, you know, and I still do this, and I pay to do it because I'm passionate about it, you know. So
Oh, yeah.
at the end of the day, I'm just like, all of you guys that are in the field, you know, you have to, you find your hobby and you spend a lot of money on it. Right now, I'm spending a lot of money on my car. So there goes a lot of hobby plans for me. Like, I'm like, damn, like, I'm not going to be able to get that camera before I go to Japan, you know, the one that I really wanted to use, but I still get to go and hike the Aokigahara forest. And I think that's enough for me. Unless anybody wants to sponsor me some cameras, that would be great.
I heard that. Do you have a Patreon?
I don't. See,
You seem
I'm not very savvy with that stuff. I didn't even know how to use this Zoom. I was like, let's get on early. I don't even know how this thing works. You know, I don't want people to see me stumbling around on Zoom. I'm trying to look like I know what I'm doing.
well. I used Skype for the longest time, but I kept having problem after problem. Either I'd freeze and you couldn't hear me, or vice versa. And my wife, where she works at, they use Zoom, and they're always having big fancy meetings, and so that's I've got another helper here too, by the way. That's kind of where I learned about Zoom, and it works really well. So
Yeah.
use it.
No, this has been super clear. Oh, you have a cute little tortoiseshell kitty.
Yes, this is my tortie. Her name is Magenta. We call her Maggie.
Oh, Mags.
She is my what do you call it? She's like a service animal to me. When I have my anxiety attacks or something, she knows when I'm having them. She'll jump in my lap, and
Oh,
now she's just like, okay, Daddy, you're not giving me any attention. It's my turn.
yeah, she's cute. Oh, goodness. Look at that face. I love it.
Yeah, she's my little buddy.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to say thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, thank
Uh,
you.
because of my whole hiccup with my car, now I have to go and share cars and give cars back because I took my boyfriend's car and now he needs it for work. So ugh.
That's
That's Mercury
understandable.
retrograde for those that believe in that. Like, we're going to be dealing with Mercury retrograde things, like with mechanics and communications. Like, as soon as it started, my car went to shit. And I'm just hoping that this will be the last major. See, I drive a 2005 Murano. It's got 120,000 miles on it. I do not have a fancy sports car or an Escalade or a Tesla. I have
Right?
something that I could take off-roading and not feel bad if it gets a ding or two.
Hey, I drive around in a used Toyota truck, so you know. But I
There you
love
go.
it. It
Yeah.
the universe blessed me with it. I'm happy with it.
That's how I felt. I actually had a nice little sports car that I bought because it was my dream car, the RX-8, and then it got stolen. And so my mom gave me her 2005 Murano as long as I shipped it from Florida over to LA, which is what I did. So I got that car essentially for shipping costs from Miami to LA. But now I was so used to driving this tiny little 2-seater like sports car, and that wasn't new. I bought it used too, you know. They don't even make an RX-8 anymore because the rotary engines just kind of, I mean, I love rotary engines. There's something beautiful about them, but they're just not in style anymore. But yeah, that car got stolen because it's a gem.
Oh, no.
And they found the car, but it was completely gutted. They took out the engine, they took off my rims, and then the insurance called it like a total loss. And I just kept the insurance money and went on a trip to Thailand.
You know, I got rear-ended one time, and when I finally got my settlement, I paid $900 a ticket to go see Kiss and get to meet them backstage. So,
Damn.
you know,
See?
I said I can live with
Sometimes
a
bad
dent.
things bring good things.
Yeah, I will live with a dent. I can't live without meeting Gene Simmons at least once in my life, you know?
There you go. There you go. No, that's actually great. I love that story.
So, real quick, paranormal on camera, that your
Yeah.
main thing you're doing right now on television?
So on TV, I have Paranormal Caught on Camera on the Travel Channel, which is every Wednesday. I also have my own independent content that I do called, if you go to thedarkzone.tv, me and some other paranormal colleagues work through that website, and we make our own content completely. This is another way I spend a lot of my money.
I hear you.
Is by going to investigating locations and then showing people my private investigations that I do outside of television. And it's called Hipster Haunts. So you can catch Hipster Haunts on YouTube, or you can go to thedarkzone.tv and check it out. And then, yeah, that's what I do. I do the Dark Zone, Hipster Haunts, and Paranormal Caught on Camera right now. So if I'm not doing anything on TV, I'm still doing Hipster Haunts. And it's free content, you know, that I produce individually.
I will share the Dark Zone Facebook page on our pages.
Yeah, I actually shared this whole podcast and everything with the Dark Zone. We have a lot of followers, like 20,000 people. So hopefully, if you're following this from the Dark Zone, hi.
Well, I'll tell you what, I got on my social media, and all of a sudden, just friend. You have a mutual friend. And it says, like on Instagram, it says Susan the Dragon. And
yeah.
so
I love that. It's good. We have to like create that web of paranormal people, you know. I love that so much. The only people I add on any of my accounts are people, I check everyone's profile before I add them because there's creeps out there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've been added, it's because I've looked at your profile extensively. So that's why it takes me forever to add people online, because I'm always going through their profiles, and I'm adding you if you're paranormal and we share a lot of interests, or deleting you if you look like a creep.
And you still accepted my friendship. Yeah. And I
mean, with a name like Coyote, for sure, definitely 110%.
Yeah, that stuck with me all my life from the day I was born. My aunt actually gave me that name, so
I love that. That's a cool name. I have a ton of coyotes in my neighborhood, and I love them.
Oh.
Yeah, I live on the edge of Griffith Park in Los Angeles, and there's tribes of coyotes. You see them all night long. You hear them. My favorite thing at night is like breeding season, which is like somewhere around the springtime. You hear the coyotes calling from each other in the hills, and I open all my windows, and I just listen to the coyotes howling. And sometimes if I'm really lucky, you'll hear the coyotes howling, and the ones that already have like a den with like pups, you hear the little baby coyotes like mimicking mom, and it's the sweetest thing. Like, I love the coyotes in my neighborhood. Aww. And I definitely go out and like leave little treats for the coyotes when I go hiking. Yeah, I'm a coyote lover. I love canines in general. So I have cats that I live with, but I am definitely a dog person. I just can't have a dog in an apartment. So, and because I travel so much, they're so, you know, they need more attention. You need to take them for walks, and I would hate to have an animal that I can't like really give all my love and attention to. Where cats are super chill. I have a pet snake too. Actually, the cats are really my roommates, but they've become mine because I've been here for 4 years. the snake is my official child that I have.
What do you have?
She's a rainbow boa. She's
Oh,
about
okay.
like 5 feet now.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, she's sweet. She's easy. I don't have to feed her for a week, you know. And so if I go out of town, if I go out of the country, like I know that I have like 2 weeks before I can actually have to come back to feed my snake. So she's fine.
Yeah, my kids have this little Chihuahua dog, and I call it the rat. So I'll just send it to you, and you could feed it to the snake.
I love chihuahuas too.
Uh,
Just as long as it's not a little nippy chihuahua, it's fine. But I think it's that time where I have to start getting ready to get my boyfriend to work.
no problem. I've
You just
kept you
kind
on
of
here
like
long enough.
yeah, but thanks so much for having me. I
Thank you
honestly,
for being here.
and anyone who's listening, thank you so much for like being part of this conversation. I do love to hear people's opinions on the subjects we talk about. So
Well,
hopefully they'll leave a comments.
as long as there's no problem with the editing this evening, it should be out tomorrow, and I will send you the link.
All right, do that. That would be amazing.
Well, thanks, guys, for coming back and joining us on Into the Pit. And stay tuned. I've got some more really exciting guests coming up, and I cannot wait. And look for our posts. We will talk to you later.
Po boy.